like it's real, way too hard to find. Stay down, just wait for your time. Post it, looking out through the blinds, keeping it stick right by my side. They see me now, they talking down, waiting just wanna see me fall. I know they gon' change, but I can't let that throw me off.
Tonight, First at 10, the family of Alana Sims tells us she's a mother, and she was killed in front of her child in Tampa. Well, tonight, police are looking for the 22-year-old's killer. The whole thing happened last night near the Easton Park neighborhood in New Tampa.
3 days, just 3 days. That's how long Billy Adams III had been a free man after beating a double murder charge before he killed again. January 30th, 2023. A quiet New Tampa neighborhood settles into evening darkness. On Easton Park Street, an SUV sits motionless under the streetlights. Inside, an 18-month-old boy sleeps peacefully in his car seat, not knowing that just feet away, his pregnant mother lies dying in a pool of blood. Her name was Alana Sims, 22 years old, 5 months pregnant. Her boyfriend, Billy Adams, had just walked free from a courtroom after being acquitted of killing 2 men.
Verdict is in the rap murder trial of Billy Adams. The jury found him not guilty of killing 2 men. Billy Adams says he feared for his life when he pulled the trigger. The prosecution and his lawyers had one last chance to sway the jury during closing arguments. Investigators say Adams planned the execution of Daniel Thompson and Trayvon Albury in a recording studio 2 years ago. But Adams claims the 2 men planned to rob him and the studio owner. He says when one victim pulled out a gun, he took action and defended himself.
He told her they were going to a party to celebrate his victory. She had no reason to doubt him. Alana would have turned 23 in exactly 2 weeks. Instead, her family would be planning a funeral. The night before the murder, Adams sent a text message to her other girlfriend, telling her that he wanted to have a future and that Alana wouldn't be part of it. Then he wrote 4 words that would seal his fate. Tomorrow, this she done. He had already made up his mind. Welcome to Crazy Dark Files. Please like this video, share and subscribe to this channel to help raise awareness and spread caution. Let's begin. This story takes us to Tampa, Florida, a vibrant Gulf Coast city known for its bustling nightlife, thriving music scene, and rapidly growing population of over 380,000 residents. But beneath the surface of this sun-soaked metropolis lies a darker reality. Tampa consistently ranks among Florida's most dangerous cities, with violent crime rates that hover well above the national average. It's in this environment where violence often hides behind everyday life that our story unfolds. Alana Sims was the kind who had found her way to navigate life. At just 22 years old, she had already found her purpose in life, being a mother. Her world completely revolved around her 18-month-old son, a little boy who meant everything to her. Friends and family always described Alana as having a joyful spirit, someone who could make others smile even on their worst days.
Very caring, very loving, willing to do anything for others, always up to do any obstacle that was challenging, very outgoing. She's going to be missed dearly.
In her own words, the mother of Alana Sims described her daughter to me. She says the 22-year-old was the woman found lying dead last night in the Easton Park neighborhood with what police described as upper body trauma. They say she was just feet away from her young son, who was sleeping in a car seat.
Pink was her favorite color. It showed up everywhere in her life, her clothes, her accessories, the way she decorated her space. Nobody could have known that just days after her death, her loved ones would gather wearing that same bright color to honor her memory. Pink would become both a celebration of who she was and a heartbreaking reminder of what was lost. At 5 months pregnant, Alana was glowing with excitement about her growing family. She talked constantly about her second child, making plans and dreaming about the future. She was the type of mother who took pictures of everything, who celebrated every small milestone, who couldn't wait to watch her children grow up together. The pregnancy filled her with hope and joy. She had no idea that this same pregnancy, this blessing she was so excited about, would become the reason someone wanted her dead. But Alana's life wasn't as simple as it appeared on the surface. She was in a relationship with Billy Adams III, a Tampa rapper who went by the stage name Billy the Kid. Adams was trying to make it in the music industry, performing at local venues and working on his career.
I've been letting them breathe for too long now, I'm back just stepping on shit. Get up with them, ain't doing no talking, don't say names, ain't making no diss. They gon' hate on me for sure, why they frontin' like they want smoke? All I see them do is go make posts, but they ain't never tryna drop the low. And me, I walk on beats like Jesus.
To most people, they seemed like a regular couple. A young man chasing his dreams and a woman supporting him while raising their family. What Alana didn't fully understand was that Billy Adams was living a completely different life behind her back. While she was planning their future together and preparing for their second child, Adams was maintaining a relationship with another woman. He wasn't just casually dating around. He was seriously involved with both women at the same time. The other woman knew about Alana's pregnancy, and she wasn't happy about it. Court documents would later reveal that this woman was upset about Alana being pregnant with Adams' child. She saw Alana and the pregnancy as obstacles to her own relationship with Adams. The tension between these three people was building, creating a dangerous situation that none of them fully understood. Adams was playing a deadly game, trying to keep both relationships going while his music career was starting to take off. He had just beaten serious criminal charges and was tasting freedom for the first time in years. In his mind, he was finally getting the life he wanted. But Alana's pregnancy represented something he didn't want: responsibility, commitment, and a future that was already decided for him. For Alana, January 30th started like any other day. She had no idea that the man she trusted, the father of her children, had already decided she was standing in the way of his happiness. Billy Adams wasn't just another guy from Tampa. He was a man with big dreams. Going by the stage name Billy the Kid, he was trying to make it in Tampa's competitive hip-hop scene. He performed at local venues, worked on his music, and believed he had what it took to become successful. For Adams, music wasn't just a hobby, it was his ticket to a better life, his way out of the streets, and his path to the freedom he desperately wanted. But Adams' journey to musical success was interrupted by something much darker. In November 2020, his life took a violent turn that would change everything. Adams was at a recording studio when a confrontation broke out with two men. By the end of that night, both men were dead, and Adams was the one who killed them. When police arrived at the scene, Adams had his story ready. He claimed self-defense. According to Adams, the two men had threatened him, and he had no choice but to protect himself. It was their lives or his, he said. The shooting happened in a recording studio, a place where Adams should have been focused on his music career, not fighting for his life. The legal system moved slowly. For over 2 years, Adams faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison. The charges were serious: double murder. If convicted, his dreams of rap stardom would be over before they really began. His freedom, his future, everything he wanted in life hung in the balance while lawyers argued his case in court. But Adams stuck to his story: self-defense. He painted himself as the victim, not the aggressor. He claimed he was just a young man trying to make music when violence found him. His legal team worked hard to convince a jury that Adams had acted in self-defense, that he was protecting himself from two dangerous men who wanted to hurt him. On January 27, 2023, after years of waiting and worrying, Adams finally got his answer. The jury didn't take long to decide his fate. After deliberating for only a few hours, they came back with their verdict: not guilty. Adams had beaten the double murder charges. He walked out of that courtroom a free man, probably thinking he had outsmarted the system. For Adams, this acquittal meant everything. He was finally free to pursue his music career without the shadow of murder charges hanging over him. He could perform, record, and build the life he wanted. After years of legal battles and uncertainty, he probably felt invincible. He had faced the most serious charges possible and walked away clean. But freedom came with complications that Adams hadn't fully considered. While he was fighting for his life in court, his personal life had become messy. He was dating two women at the same time, Alana Sims and another woman whose name hasn't been made public. This wasn't just casual dating. Both relationships were serious enough that one of the women was pregnant with his child. Alana's pregnancy represented everything Adams didn't want in his newfound freedom. After beating murder charges and tasting liberty again, the last thing he wanted was the responsibility of another child. He saw Alana and her pregnancy as obstacles to the life he was trying to build. The other woman wasn't happy about Alana's pregnancy either. She knew about the baby and it clearly bothered her. Adams was caught between two women, with one of them carrying his child and the other one upset about it. Instead of handling the situation like an adult, Adams saw Alana as a problem that needed to be solved. Just 3 days after walking out of court as a free man, Adams made the decision that destroyed multiple lives forever. January 29, 2023 was supposed to be just another ordinary day. But for Billy Adams, it was the day he made a decision that would expose his darkest intentions. While most people were going about their normal routines, Adams was having a conversation through text messages that would later become the most damning evidence against him in court. The conversation was with the other woman he was dating, the one who wasn't pregnant, the one who wasn't Alana Sims. This woman was clearly upset about Alana's pregnancy. She knew about the baby and was bothering her in a big way. This wasn't just casual jealousy. This was a woman who saw Alana and her unborn child as threats to her own relationship with Adams. Adams knew exactly how this other woman felt about Alana's pregnancy. He could have tried to calm her down, reassure her, or handle the situation like a mature adult. Instead, he fed into her concerns and revealed his own twisted thinking about the situation. In those text messages, Adams told the other woman something that would chill investigators when they read it later. He said he wanted to have a life, and that Alana Sims wouldn't be a part of it. Think about those words for a moment. This wasn't Adams saying he wanted to break up with Alana, or that he wanted to co-parent from a distance. He was saying that Alana wouldn't be part of his life at all. But Adams didn't stop there. What he said next would become the most important piece of evidence prosecutors had against him. In that text conversation on January 29th, just one day before Alana would be found dead, Adams wrote something that would haunt everyone who read it. "Tomorrow this she done." Those 4 words, "tomorrow this she done," would later be used by prosecutors to argue that Adams had already decided to kill Alana. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of anger that got out of control. According to the prosecution, this was premeditation. Adams was telling the other woman that by the next day his problem with Alana would be solved permanently. The other woman's response to Adams' chilling message is perhaps the most tragic part of this entire text exchange. When Adams told her that tomorrow everything would be done, she didn't encourage him or agree with whatever he was planning. Instead, she sent back a message that showed she understood something terrible was about to happen. "This ain't the way, baby." Those 5 words, "this ain't the way, baby," were a warning. The other woman was telling Adams that whatever he was thinking about doing wasn't the right solution. She was trying to talk him out of something, even though the text messages don't show exactly what she thought he was planning, but her response suggests she knew Adams was considering something drastic and dangerous. Think about what was going through her mind when she sent that message. Did she suspect Adams was planning to hurt Alana? Did she think he was going to threaten her or try to force her to get an abortion? Or did she somehow know that Adams was capable of something much worse? Whatever she was thinking, she tried to stop him with those words. But Adams didn't listen to her warning. He had already made up his mind about what he was going to do. In his twisted thinking, Alana and her pregnancy were obstacles to the freedom he had just won in court. He had beaten double murder charges and walked out of that courtroom ready to live his life on his own terms. The last thing he wanted was the responsibility of another child or the complications that came with Alana being in his life. These text messages would later paint a clear picture for investigators and prosecutors. They showed that Adams had been planning something for at least a day before Alana's murder. They revealed his mindset and his intentions. Most importantly, they showed that someone had tried to warn him against whatever he was planning, and he had ignored that warning completely. Less than 24 hours after sending those messages, Alana Sims would be dead. Those text messages are absolutely chilling when you know what happened next. What do you think was going through that other woman's mind when she sent that warning? Let me know your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more shocking true crime cases. January 30th, 2023. Alana Sims had no idea that the man she trusted, the father of her unborn child, had already decided this would be her last day alive. While Alana was going about her normal routine with her 18-month-old son, Billy Adams was putting his deadly plan into motion. Adams knew exactly what to say to get Alana to come to him. He contacted her with news that would sound exciting and believable. He wanted her to come to a party. But this wasn't just any party. Adams told Alana they were going to celebrate his recent acquittal on the double murder charges. After years of legal battles and uncertainty, he was finally free, and he wanted to share this moment with her. For Alana, this invitation probably felt special. Her boyfriend had just beaten serious criminal charges and was ready to celebrate his freedom. She was 5 months pregnant with his child, and being included in this celebration likely made her feel important and loved. This was supposed to be a happy moment in their relationship, a chance to look forward to their future together now that the legal troubles were behind them. Alana began preparing for what she thought would be a joyful evening. She got herself ready and made sure her toddler was comfortable for the trip. Her 18-month-old son would be coming along, probably expecting to see other families and maybe play with other children at the party. Alana had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. In her mind, she was getting ready for a celebration with the man she cared about. The location Adams chose was the Easton Park neighborhood in New Tampa. This was a quiet residential area where families lived normal, peaceful lives. Children rode their bikes on the sidewalks, neighbors knew each other, and parents felt safe letting their kids play outside. It was the kind of neighborhood where people moved to escape violence and crime, not to witness it. At exactly 7:22 p.m., surveillance cameras captured something that would later become crucial evidence. A black Chevy Malibu entered the Easton Park neighborhood. This wasn't Adams' car, it belonged to his father. Adams was driving his father's vehicle, probably thinking this would help him avoid being identified later. The cameras recorded the exact time, creating a timeline that investigators would use to piece together the events of that night. 14 minutes later, at 7:36 p.m., another vehicle appeared on the surveillance footage. This time it was Alana's SUV, with her behind the wheel and her young son sleeping peacefully in his car seat. Alana was following the directions Adams had given her, driving to what she believed was a party location. She probably felt excited, maybe a little nervous about meeting new people, but definitely not afraid. As Alana drove through the quiet streets of Easton Park, she was looking for signs of a celebration. She expected to see other cars, hear music, maybe see people gathering outside a house. But as she made her way deeper into the neighborhood, something must have felt wrong. There were no party decorations, no crowds of people, no music or laughter. When Alana arrived at the location Adams had given her, the horrible truth became clear. There was no party. There were no friends or family members waiting to celebrate Adams' legal victory. There was no gathering, no music, no food, no joy. There was just Adams, waiting in his father's black Malibu, with intentions that Alana couldn't have imagined in her worst nightmares. The quiet neighborhood that families called home was about to become the scene of a brutal murder, and Alana's innocent toddler, sleeping peacefully in his car seat, was about to witness something no child should ever see. When Alana Sims stepped out of her SUV in the quiet Easton Park neighborhood, she must have felt confused and worried. There was no party, no celebration, no group of friends waiting to congratulate Billy Adams on his legal victory. Instead, there was just Adams, sitting in his father's black Chevy Malibu, waiting for her in the darkness. What happened next in those final moments of Alana's life will never be fully known. Only 2 people were there for the confrontation, Alana and Adams, and only one of them survived to tell the story. But we know that Alana realized she had been tricked. She understood that Adams had lied to get her there, that there was no party, and that something was terribly wrong. Adams later claimed to police that Alana pulled a gun on him during their confrontation. He said he wrestled the weapon away from her and shot her in self-defense. But investigators didn't believe his story. They saw it as another lie from a man who had already changed his story multiple times. The evidence suggested something much more sinister, that Adams had planned this moment, that he had lured Alana there specifically to kill her. Whatever words were exchanged between them in those final moments, the confrontation ended with gunshots. Alana Sims, just 2 weeks shy of her 23rd birthday and 5 months pregnant with her second child, was shot and killed by the man she trusted. She collapsed next to her SUV, her life bleeding away on the quiet residential street. At 8:21 p.m., surveillance cameras captured the black Chevy Malibu leaving the Easton Park neighborhood. Adams was fleeing the scene, leaving behind Alana's body and her sleeping toddler. The little boy remained in his car seat, completely unaware that his mother was dying just feet away from him. He continued sleeping peacefully, while his world changed forever. 11 minutes later, at 8:32 p.m., a passerby noticed Alana lying on the ground, but instead of calling for help, this person made a tragic assumption. They thought Alana was drunk or passed out from alcohol, so they kept walking. This decision would haunt investigators later, knowing that precious minutes were lost when Alana might have still been saved. Meanwhile, Alana's friend was waiting for her at work. Alana was supposed to pick her up at 9 p.m., but she never showed up. The friend probably tried calling and texting, wondering where Alana was and why she wasn't answering her phone. As the minutes turned into hours, the friend's worry must have grown. It wasn't until after 10 p.m. that another person discovered the horrific scene. This person immediately recognized that something was seriously wrong and called 911 for help. When first responders arrived, they found Alana's body in a pool of blood next to her SUV. But the most heartbreaking discovery was yet to come. Inside the vehicle, Alana's 18-month-old son was still sleeping in his car seat. The little boy had no idea what had happened to his mother. He had slept through the confrontation, the gunshots, and the hours that followed. When paramedics and police officers found him, he was still peaceful and unaware that he would never see his mother alive again. For 2 days after Alana Sims was murdered, Billy Adams thought he had gotten away with it. He probably believed his plan had worked perfectly: lure Alana to a quiet neighborhood, kill her, and disappear without anyone knowing he was involved. But Adams had made a critical mistake. He had forgotten about the surveillance cameras that were watching everything. On February 1, 2023, just 2 days after the murder, Tampa police detectives knocked on Adams' door. They had questions about Alana's death, and they wanted answers. Adams probably felt confident when he sat down with the investigators. After all, he had just beaten double murder charges by claiming self-defense. He likely thought he could handle a few questions from detectives. When the detectives asked Adams where he was on the night of January 30th, he gave them a simple answer that he thought would end their investigation quickly. Adams told the police that he was home all night. He claimed he never left his house, never went to New Tampa, and certainly never saw Alana that evening. It was a straightforward lie that Adams probably thought was impossible to disprove, but the detectives had done their homework before coming to question Adams. They had already collected surveillance footage from the Eastern Park neighborhood. They had cell phone records that showed where Adams' phone had been that night. They had witness statements and a timeline of events that painted a very different picture from the story Adams was telling them. As the questioning continued, the detectives began presenting their evidence to Adams. They showed him the surveillance footage of his father's black Chevy Malibu entering the neighborhood at 7:22 p.m. They showed him more footage of the same car leaving at 8:21 p.m. They presented cell phone records that proved his phone was in the area at the time of the murder. Adams watched his first lie crumble before his eyes. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. There was no way he could continue claiming he was home all night when video cameras had recorded his movements. Faced with proof that he had lied, Adams knew he had to change his story completely. So Adams did what he had done before when facing murder charges. He claimed self-defense. But this time, his story was even more detailed and dramatic. Adams told the detectives that when he met Alana in the neighborhood, she had pulled a gun on him. He said she was threatening him, and he had no choice but to fight for his life. According to Adams, he wrestled the gun away from Alana and shot her to protect himself. It was the exact same defense strategy that had worked for Adams just 3 days earlier in his double murder case. A jury had believed his self-defense claim then, so why wouldn't it work again? Adams probably thought he had found the perfect legal strategy. Whenever he killed someone, he would just claim they had threatened him first. But this time, the detectives and prosecutors had more than just Adams' word to go on. They had discovered the text messages Adams had sent the day before the murder. When investigators read those messages, they saw a completely different story than the one Adams was telling. The text where Adams told the other woman, "Tomorrow this is done," didn't sound like someone who was planning to defend himself. It sounded like someone who was planning to attack. The message where he said Alana won't be a part of his life didn't suggest self-defense. It suggested premeditation. Prosecutors began to see the real motive behind Alana's murder. Adams had just won his freedom after beating double murder charges. He was dating 2 women, and one of them was pregnant with his child. He saw Alana and her pregnancy as obstacles to the new life he wanted to build. He didn't want to be a father again, and he didn't want the responsibility that came with having Alana in his life. The evidence was clear, and Adams' lies had been exposed. He was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and killing of an unborn child, charges that could put him away for life. After Billy Adams was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, his legal team knew they had a fight on their hands. But Adams had one thing going for him: he had beaten murder charges before. His attorney, Jamie Kane, was ready to use every legal tool available to help his client avoid a life sentence, or possibly even the death penalty. The first battle came at Adams' bond hearing. In most criminal cases, defendants have the right to request bail while they wait for their trial. Kane stood before Tampa Judge Margaret Taylor and asked for Adams to be released on bond. The defense argued that Adams deserved the chance to prepare for his trial from the outside, not from a jail cell. The judge knew about Adams' recent acquittal on double murder charges. She understood the evidence against him in Alana's murder, including the text messages that suggested premeditation. Most importantly, she considered what kind of threat Adams might pose to the community if he was released. The judge's response was swift and decisive. He immediately denied Adams' request for bond. The judge explained that Adams posed too great a threat to the community to be released. Here was a man who had been acquitted of killing 2 people just days before allegedly killing a pregnant woman. The pattern was clear, and the judge wasn't willing to take any chances with public safety. With Adams remaining in jail, his defense team moved to their next strategy. Attorney Jamie Kane filed a motion requesting a gag order on the case. Kane argued that media coverage was hurting his client's chances of getting a fair trial. He pointed to news articles that had been published about the case, claiming some of the information was inaccurate or speculative. Kane specifically mentioned a Fox 13 News article from February 9th that included publicly available information about the case. He told the judge that some of the reporting was highly speculative and highly inaccurate. Kane complained that different news outlets were reporting different ages for Alana's child, and that police were speculating about Adams' motive for the crime. The defense attorney was trying to control the narrative around the case. If he could get a gag order approved, it would limit what information the media could report about Adams and the murder. This might help Adams get a more favorable jury when his case went to trial, but the state fought back against the gag order request. Prosecutors argued that silencing the media would violate Florida Statute 119, which protects freedom of the press. They explained that the public had a right to know about criminal cases, especially ones involving such serious charges. The state also brought up Murd3rs law, a victims' rights law that gives families of crime victims certain protections and rights. Under Murd3rs law, Alana's family had the right to receive information about the case against Adams. A gag order could interfere with these rights and prevent Alana's loved ones from staying informed about the legal proceedings. The judge listened to both sides and made a decision. He denied the request for a gag order, allowing media coverage to continue. However, the judge made his denial without prejudice, which meant that another judge could potentially grant a gag order request at a later date if circumstances changed. Behind the scenes, Adams' defense team was already preparing their main strategy for trial. They planned to use the same self-defense argument that had worked so well in Adams' previous double murder case. Kane and his team would argue that Adams had acted in self-defense when he killed Alana, just as the jury had believed in the earlier case. The legal battle was just beginning, but the lines were already drawn. Adams would claim self-defense, while prosecutors would argue that the text messages and other evidence proved premeditation and murder. 2 weeks. That's how close Alana Sims came to celebrating her 23rd birthday. 2 weeks after her murder, on what should have been a day filled with cake, presents, and laughter, her family gathered instead to remember the young woman whose life had been stolen from her. On that Sunday in February, Alana's loved ones came together wearing pink, her favorite color. Instead of singing "Happy Birthday" and watching her blow out candles, they shared memories of a woman who had brought joy to everyone who knew her. The celebration that should have been about Alana's future became a memorial to her past. The tragedy of Alana's murder goes far beyond just her death. Her toddler son, who slept peacefully in his car seat while his mother was killed just feet away, will grow up without her love and guidance. He'll never remember her voice singing him to sleep or her arms holding him when he was scared. The unborn child will never experience a single moment of life outside the womb. Billy Adams' selfish decision to murder Alana didn't just end one life, it destroyed multiple futures. A little boy lost his mother. An unborn child lost their chance at life. Grandparents lost their daughter. The community lost a bright light that made everyone around her happier. Alana Sims' murder wasn't just a random act of violence. It was the result of warning signs that were ignored and a system that failed to protect a vulnerable woman. Looking back at Billy Adams' history, the red flags were there for anyone willing to see them. One of the most disturbing aspects of this case is how pregnancy actually increased Alana's risk of violence. Many people think pregnancy should be a time of protection and care. But statistics show that domestic violence often escalates when a woman is pregnant. Abusers see pregnancy as a way their victim is trapping them, leading to increased anger and violence. The justice system also failed in this case. How can someone be acquitted of double murder charges and then commit another killing within days? This raises serious questions about how we monitor people who have been involved in violent crimes, even if they weren't convicted. Should there be better tracking systems for people who claim self-defense in multiple violent incidents? Alana Sims was more than just a victim in a true crime story. She was a devoted mother who loved her 18-month-old son with all her heart. She was a daughter who brought joy to her family. She was a woman with dreams and plans for her future, excited about the baby she was carrying and the family she was building. The legal battle to hold Billy Adams accountable for Alana's murder continues. While he sits in jail awaiting trial, Alana's family fights for justice every day. They want the world to know that Alana's life mattered, that her death wasn't just another statistic, and that Adams must face the consequences of his action. Alana's young son is growing up without his mother, but he's surrounded by family members who are determined to keep her memory alive. They'll tell him stories about how much his mother loved him, how excited she was to be his mom, and how she would have done anything to protect him. The family that has stepped up to care for him ensures that Alana's love continues even though she's gone. As we remember Alana Sims, we must commit to doing better. We must recognize warning signs, support vulnerable women, and demand accountability from our justice system. Alana's legacy should be a world where other women don't have to fear for their lives because of the men who claim to love them. Justice for Alana means more than just convicting her killer. It means creating a society where women like her are protected, valued, and safe. If this story touched you, please like this video, share it to spread awareness about intimate partner violence, and subscribe for more true crime cases that honor the victims and seek justice.